Good evening, folks. We led there with a new bumper that, unfortunately, because of how Twitch works, that's my name there. Unfortunately, because of how Twitch works, I'm almost certain none of you saw. I don't know. Tell me if you saw it. I'm not sure how easy it is to see the first few seconds of the video. I'm aware that Twitch experts start with like a graphic that says like on soon, and then about half an hour later they arrive. So tell me if you saw that. So it's a new like bumper gimmick we're kind of rolling with here. It's pretty cool, I think. Hang on a second. Let me just get set up here. It's been a while since we're on the Twitch. Didn't see it. Okay, here we go. So we used to run with this, right? But we kind of want to make the screens, especially with the insert that we can't talk about publicly, that we have on the grin, the paywall. So now we're going to roll with this here. I like it. I like it a lot. Confirmed Shoot is... He's really exploring the many different directions we can go in visually. It's quite the bit. I've been sent many videos today. I've heard some frankly disgusting rumors regarding Tuesday's episode of the 31, which I sure hope are not true. We'll be finding that out in a couple of days. Let's get to Fleet Week. That is why you are here. This is the platform's resident AEW show, where we discuss kind of the week that was. We look at, we touch on the C shows, but generally we look at Dynamite, we look at Rampage. We pick a couple stories to focus on. Maybe we pair a particular set of facts or statistics with some analysis, so on. And so on. Let me close this window a second here. What can I play while I do this? We don't have long enough clips anymore, See, summer, people are out now. Okay, hang on. While I do this, look at a picture of Jack Crosby. I like the fact that it loops. Very strong. Here he is, the great man. Anyway, summer, everyone's doing professional wrestling conversational content. Unfortunately. Let's get into it. AEW had an interesting week. One of those weeks where Dynamite was at a level that kind of made it clear, I think, pretty early on that Rampage was probably going to be better. I think that was pretty clearly the case. I've always one of the best episodes of Rampage they ever did. Even if maybe not the most commercially viable in terms of star power, I thought it was excellent in terms of how eventful it was, how good the wrestling was in terms of a bookended sense, top and bottom. But Dynamite was fun. There was some interesting talking points we'll get into now. Even if I don't think it was their strongest episode, there was certainly some stuff worth talking about. In fact, let's get straight to it. The opening match, a title change. Wardlow, who everyone I think kind of penciled in for this spot a while back now, indeed got the TNT title. Poor Scorpio's reign, I think, unfortunately, for a range of reasons, many of which I actually think were completely out of his control, had to be put out of his misery. This whole era of the TNT title had to be put out of his misery. And Wardlow was kind of the obvious fit to do that. He needed something after the MJF feud ended. This felt like the natural direction. So I don't think anyone's surprised at the result. Let's talk about kind of execution a little bit. I think it was, it was effective to an extent. I think it was always going to be limited in terms of effectiveness based on the fact that, unfortunately, Sculpt kind of felt like a dead man walking with a belt. He didn't have a particularly strong reign. The belt wasn't in a particularly strong position, going into the match. So I think it kind of had, to me, it didn't pack much of a punch because to me it felt like a formality more than anything else, which is, it is what it is. It's difficult. But I do think that was kind of palpable watching it. Nonetheless, it was certainly solid. Wardlow gave Scorpio a little bit. I think he was up to it. He's always done a good job of kind of laying his offense in. So it was certainly fine and served its purpose. Wasn't much of a street fight, but I understand that, as Cheesenator brings up, there were some, other factors, I think, with Scorpio, and I don't think they necessarily knew what they could or couldn't do when they booked the match. I just think they knew they had to get the belt off of him. Hopefully, as well. It's been a strange run for him, right? I think it's fair to say. A strange 2022. Obviously, he won the TNT title, I want to say, in March the first time. He and Sammy were kind of bringing each other down in a weird way with the TNT title feud initially there, which was, a shame. They decided to do a double turn, which I was very much for, and supported the kind of frenetic title changes for that reason. I will always remember the Philadelphia Dynamite, which had the ladder match, and the way that Philly went crazy for Scorpio when he was climbing to win that thing. That was a great moment that I will always be kind of bummed out about the lack of follow-up. Scorpio was immediately a heel after that, which I think was a shame. Hopefully when he's back, hopefully, it's not too long, but whenever he is back, ideally they can do something, him and Ethan. I must say, though, he's going to need some help because both guys have been losing an awful lot on TV. So it won't be a red hot feud by any means, but I think it could be good. Ultimately, some must die so others can live, right? And I think Wardlow was the priority, rightly so. Let's talk about him a little bit. So I went through Wardlow's AEW run so far. Of course, he has been there since pretty much the very start. He had like a vignette on like one of the first shows, and then they shot an angle with him on an early Dynamite, right? From what I recall. So let's kind of talk about this because I've been very consistent in some of my concerns about, main event Wardlow, whatever that means, in a promotion of this talent level. So I went through and I looked at all the matches he's had that have gone over or around 10 minutes, like, 8 and up, basically, was what I wanted to do because I was intrigued by how many there were, if it was more or less than you would think. Now, to the surprise of no one, so I'll go through these here. And I'm sure I've missed some. As always, these are not foolproof. I don't have a team here. This is just sort of rough analysis, right? Of course, we have the Cody match, which I think clocked in at like 12. It wasn't as long as I thought it was, but I mean, that's like a great cage match. Kind of an early AEW classic in my view, just because of the finish. He has a lumberjack match with Luchasaurus that got very good reviews. I did not rewatch this. I do not remember it. It popped me that it got good reviews. That rules. He had, and I think a lot of you will probably remember this, he had a nice run in late 2020 in the World Title Tournament, or the Eliminator Tournament, whatever they call it, where he wrestled Jungle Boy, beat Jungle Boy, and then lost to Hangman. And the Hangman match was like really physical and a really cool match. So I remember those being good. He then had 2 outings with Hager. One was a straight wrestling match. The other was the MMA deal, which we don't have to talk about necessarily. A match with Jericho during the Labors, which I didn't think was particularly good. And then since then, which was last August, it has been much more squash heavy. He got a plethora of squash match wins on TV, which honestly was kind of the bat signal for a big push, right? His longest match in the promotions thus far, singles match that is, because I know that he's done, Stadium Stampede and Blood and Guts and all that stuff. But in singles matches, his longest so far was Punk. I think it went 14 minutes, which kind of amazed me because I just remember the finishing stretch of it. But I guess I say all this to say his history with extended matches is longer than you may think based on the last year where he has been crushing guys, like barely selling for guys' levels. I would say the results thus far have been mixed, but mostly positive. The Jericho match, I think, is a tough style matchup, honestly, for a young powerhouse like that. but most of these got good responses, and the Hager one, the MMA one, is not, I don't think anyone can point to Wardlow in that regard. I think what makes it interesting is obviously in most of these matches, if not all of them really, he has played the much more easy archetype of powerhouse heel. It is much more challenging now for him to be the babyface. And you saw it a little bit in this match with Scorpio. I actually did a nice job of it. I think he's clearly a smart wrestler. But his challenge is selling in a way that creates an exciting professional wrestling match that can main event a television show, but not selling too much and protecting his aura as like a destroyer. That is the challenge that Wardlow has ahead of him. So I went through the roster because I was intrigued. Now, I think clearly there are like major matches that jump off the page, right? Miro, Malachi Black, Keith Lee, Samoa Joe, alongside Malachi, Brody, and even Buddy. I think Powerhouse Hobbs is one of the obvious ones. These kind of pay-per-view matches, TV special matches, but by TV special I mean more, Arthur Ashe, Fyter Fest, then Battle of the Belts, which is kind of a weird deal at this point. So I think there's some big-time matches that kind of is easy. I think the interesting part of this will be the TV stops along the way. What guys do you pick to have 8-minute TV title defenses? Do you go with guys like, who we're going to get to later, Tony Nese? Do you have him sell it all for Tony Nese? I don't know. I'm not sure I would. Jay Lethal, I think he probably could sell a little bit for because Lethal's been protected enough. Do you play around with babyface matches? Do you put him in there with a guy like Dante Martin and they shake hands after and he's kind of endearing as this like brutish babyface? What can he do with someone like Bobby Fish? Are you comfortable enough with Andrade and Rush's spot on the card that you haven't beat those guys? Be tempted to, right? I mean, those matches would be really compelling. Daniel Garcia is an interesting one stylistically. I think that match could be like really interesting. And you could do a deal where Garcia wants to bring the TNT title into this, Appreciation Society, and it's kind of part of his deal with Sammy. So obviously, it goes without saying the AEW roster is packed with talent. I think, Rampage proved that when you go to, you have like those matchups where the results were clear, like Takeshita and Eddie and and Tony and Orange, and you get that level of quality. I think it shows how good the roster is. I just wonder how selective they are. Like, here's another guy we know can have a good match with anyone, Seidel, right? Takeshita and Wardlow would be great. I think the thing that's most interesting to me is how interested are they in exploring babyface matches? Because I think the heel side, like, you can do some stuff here. I mentioned a couple, but it seems like a lot of the more compelling matchups to me are babyface matchups. Takeshita is a crazy one, by the way. That one's like, that sounds incredible. And with that in mind, as Toby Suicida brings up, next point, an open challenge situation. Do you have him as a character almost kind of represent this ideology of bringing back, the TNT title to its former glory, and I'm going to have open challenges, and then you can do babyface matches easily. We saw it with Cody. So I'm intrigued by it. I think he's going to do good. I think he's shown in every showing, extended showing he's had, I think he's shown a lot more talent than, maybe the 1-minute squashes would suggest, because he doesn't need to do more than that in a lot of cases. So I think he can pull it off, and obviously he's a freakish athlete. We've seen him do some crazy stuff in there. I just think it's such an interesting moment in his career, right? If he hits this out of the park and he nails it and he gets the TNT title back to like where it was when Miro had it, it kind of feels like you need to get ready to go the whole way with Wardlow. I mean, if he proves himself as being a fit as the champion at this level, you kind of have to like consider what he can do with the world title, right? It would almost be a more natural fit in some ways. So it's kind of a cool point in his career where we can stop the timeline a little bit and say this next couple months are going to be very, very important. As a fan of the product, beyond anything else, I just would like the TNT title to matter again. It's been a rough stretch for that belt, and Wardlow is over huge, one of their top 5 baby faces, I think, easily. So hopefully he can help the belt out, and the belt can help him along the way. So I'm excited for it. I think it was clearly the decision that had to be made, the right decision. I do hope there's something waiting for Scorpio when he's back. I like Scorpio as a talent. I think this point in the game with the roster they've built, I don't think he needs to be TNT champ, to be quite transparent. But I think he's a good wrestler, and I think there's a way to use him that plays into his strengths more than they have for the last year. So it'll be fun to see. Don't have an answer. I don't think you can do a lot of baby faces if the idea is for Big Ward to be a full-on Goldberg type. Absolutely. I think, and I think you're right. I wonder if this audience will eventually want more. That's always the thing that's intrigued me. Like, I think it's going to be a kind of telling to find out what the audience thinks of it. For example, if he had like TNT title defenses that went 90 seconds, that would kind of be fucking awesome. But like, I don't know if the audience necessarily would like it or get tired of it. We'll see. We'll find out. Maybe we won't. I don't know. Maybe they'll do something more traditional or conventional. But I'm excited to find out. JJ asked, what would you do with Sky? I'd probably have Ethan, take him out and then do that program. The problem is that, as I mentioned earlier, I just think Ethan, unfortunately, doesn't really have any momentum on his own, kind of path, because as we talked about last week, his TV record, I think, speaks for itself, which is unfortunate. And that kind of limits the angle in some ways. So I would be tempted, honestly, to have them be a heel tag team. I think they showed a lot of potential as a straight up team. They're both good tag team wrestlers. I in fear of boring everyone, but I've talked about this before. If you look at the heel tag teams in the promotion, right? What do we got here? The heel tag teams, we have Bucks, Team Taz, who always feel to me like they could be a singles. They should be a singles. 2.0 in the Gun Club. Butcher and Blade in at 5. I personally, if I was looking at that, I'd be very happy if I had Scorpio and Ethan as a full-time team. If you do that, then the angle can be, they get rid of Dan Lambert. And that's the way of kind of rejuvenating them slightly. So different things you can do. Again, I don't think he's a top guy in this roster. That's not an insult. It's just a reflection of how good the talent pool is. But I would like to see something for him, because I do feel he was kind of put in a tough spot with the TNT title, which is a shame. Okay. Let's look elsewhere here on Dynamite. Roosh made his singles debut. I'm aware that he was in the Battle Royal, but the Rampage Royal. No, the Royal Rampage, right? He wrestled Penta. Lots going on here, honestly. A really interesting topic. Because quietly, this was my favorite match on Dynamite. Many of you will know over at Wrestle Purist, we do our little star rating gimmicks, and I actually thought this was the best match on the show. Genuinely. Not that it was, a classic or a spreadsheet thriller, but I thought it was actually pretty damn good. And they kicked the shit out of each other. But even still, I say all that, and I concede it was an interesting, slightly puzzling choice, I thought, in some ways. Now, here's for why. Partly they were unlucky, right? I think this was not their best crowd, and this crowd wasn't particularly interested in this match. The pace of it, this is a good example of something I've talked about a lot with AEW, and I think your mileage may vary. You may not care about this, or it may kind of ruin the shows for you some ways. Not ruin, but it may limit your enjoyment slightly. This was like the right thing to do for match quality, giving them 12 minutes. There's obviously a more epic version of this matchup, which this is a good example of it. I do wonder, though, from a television perspective and a live crowd perspective, you'd not have been better served to be like, you guys have 7 minutes, go fucking crazy out there, And I know that, Penta's more of a showman, and Roosh is at a point in his career where he has evolved, we'll say that. And I don't think that is an insult. Like, he's just different now. His matches are more grueling and kind of than ever now. In Ring of Honor, I saw him. There were times where I thought his lack of motivation was kind of obvious. That obviously isn't the case here. But I do wonder if there's a version of this match that plays better to people that haven't seen Roosh before. I don't know. I don't know where you guys stand on it. But as it was, I did enjoy the kind of grueling nature of it. And it was like a really rough, kind of bruising affair. They were hitting each other very, very hard. There's a great moment on Jungle Boy's Unrestricted podcast appearance where he talks about how hard Penta hits and how annoying it is that he has the chest protector gimmick on. You know, they think so you can't even get him back. Dude, you can see it in matches like this. You could see Roosh was trying, and he was like, Penta was not interested in feeding his chest quite as his opponent was, which was fun. I like those dynamics. It's just, it pops me. But they were going for it, man. I'd have been tempted to do something different in terms of structure and format. And I do wish it got over better live. They had a great finish, and it was genuinely good. I'm very, we just talked about the heel tag team ranks, right? I'd like to see a real committed push for Andrade and Roosh. Now, I see there's a lot of talk about a third man, which was understandable. I get it. But, like, I kind of think this is a case of if you're going to do it, just go for it, you know? I don't know if that's the plan. Maybe it will be him as the centerpiece for trio, Andrade, that is. But I'm kind of tempted by the idea, or kind of enticed by the idea of like Andrade and Roosh just being an actual top heel team, you know, and really going with them in that regard. I just told you guys of who's kind of on that heel side, and if you go past, if we assume FTR leave All Out as the champs, it's like, who's next for them? You know, who are their big title matches? It would sure not be nice to have Andrade and Roosh feeling red hot on that side of things. So I think that'll be interesting. Roosh, I think, had a good debut. Maybe not a home run in terms of, I would assume it's Dragon Lee, yeah. Maybe not a home run in terms of like getting over. But I thought his performance was good. And hopefully, without being kind of patronizing here, I say this with love to the man, but hopefully he's aware of how big a deal this is in his career, because he's had a great career, but there certainly has been a perception of him, fair or unfair, as to his kind of, so he's the business side of his professional wrestling performance. And this is a big spot for him. There's a lot of people that watch AEW that have never seen him. So hopefully he's switched on and can perform at this rate, consistently. Because if he can, he's an asset, man. He's a very, very good professional wrestler. So there you go. All right, let's look elsewhere here. Hang on a second. Why have I got so many notifications? God forbid someone's quote tweeted something. Oh no. Hang on a second. Okay, let me immediately delete this tweet, because this is the thing. Is you tweet like a house show lineup as a bit, and immediately it turns into like a discourse, so people think you're doing like an essay. It's just a funny card, man. It ain't that deep, But let me get rid of this whole shit. All right, I'll continue with the program here. Now, okay. Elsewhere, they did the angle with the Acclaim we've been talking about. We all kind of been expecting. I must say, I think this has been very well executed. The Acclaimed have felt like a babyface act in a heel body for a while now, right? I mean, in heel bodies for a while now. I mean, they get this huge reaction, and people love the shtick, and then they have to go out there and work as heels and get some, get heat on babyface teams that are less over than them. I think that was, always the end game of this whole thing with the Gun Club, and made a lot of sense. The Billy Gunn swerve part of it, sure. The crowd reacted to it, accordingly, and it got some buzz online. So, God bless. I like where they've ended up here with the Acclaimed as baby faces. It gives the Gun Club some actual heat beyond just being annoying, which is nice. I am kind of slightly hesitant, slightly wary of what this Acclaim push looks like. Like, I'm really interested to see how far they go with it, with them as baby faces. Because if they were over before, like, you best believe they're gonna be more over here shortly moving forward. So that will be kind of fun to see. I wonder how far they go with them in the immediate future. Obviously FTR are going to be the centerpiece of the division, it feels like, on the babyface side. You have alongside them Keith and Swerve feel like they're not going to be a thing for much longer. You obviously always have the Lucha Bros, but they can kind of, in their own way, they can really be more than just a team, right? They can be a trio with Pac or singles wrestlers in their own right. The Acclaimed may really get a boost here as baby faces. As heels, they have mostly been guys who lose a lot and get their heat back with the follow up, rap or whatever. Their shtick is kind of effective in that way, very, very valuable. As baby faces, you would assume they'll win more, maybe not all the time, but more. So that'll be fun to kind of watch that adjustment and see how far they push it. I've been pretty consistent on the Acclaimed. I like them as an act. I don't think they in ring are a point where they can be the champions, personally. Not that they're bad. Like, to me, they're just. I don't see them as the champions of a division that kind of wants to present itself as like this is the strongest tag ranks in the world or whatever else. I think you want to have the ability to do 20-minute, 25-minute pay-per-view matches, right? Now, I say all that knowing that they've kind of gone away from that formula anyway with the kind of mass triple threat tags where you can kind of bloat matches and stuff. But I don't know. I think in an ideal world, the tag titles can main event a pay-per-view. And I think the Acclaimed are a fun act. And, they're effective and useful. Tag champs, I don't know. I don't know if they're at a point where they can have, extended epic tag title matches. And unfortunately, it might be unfair, but FTR and the Young Bucks are in the division. And so you have to, it is what it is. It's a kind of level thing. I don't know if I can see the Acclaimed having 20-minute title matches. If you can, then that's fine. I'm not saying they're like bad. I just think they're not quite at that level yet. I also think they're way like rawer than a lot of the alternatives. So that's where I'm at. I think they're most effective as like an underneath team, but we'll see. I'm sure they'll get that run eventually, and we'll see how they do. But right now, I don't think it'd be the best spot. Yeah, and again, this is not me saying that they're below the like. To me, they've been used perfectly. It'll be fun to see if they can rise to the occasion if they get a big push. Like right now, I find it hard to imagine them in a bigger spot, but that doesn't mean they can't do it. I just haven't seen it yet. Okay, we had this thunderstorm tag. I have to say, the match overall was fine. I actually like the dynamic a lot with Tony and Thunder, and they're both strong babyface personalities. I think Tony is. We've talked about this a lot. Tony is most comfortable being like cool and laid back. And Thunder Rosa is nothing if not high energy and fiery. So I think in some ways they help each other out in that regard, and there's a nice balance there. Tony's babyface persona has always been an interesting topic to me. She's likable, but I think she's always struggled to find the middle ground between being like easygoing and firing up and making a hot, comeback. This team kind of allows them to negate that, which is interesting. I don't know where they go with it. I don't know if there's a title match on the end of this, or there's a turn. God forbid, there was 2 of those on on Rampage. Maybe we'll get another one. I don't think that'd be a right call, but I actually like what it does. I'm a big fan of more reserved personalities. I'm a big fan of putting them with people who are going to kind of force a different side of them out, and I thought you saw that just even in this little tag here and in their interactions before. I do have to say, and I say it kind of reluctantly, I don't know if it's ever going to happen with Marina. I hope it does. I would love to be wrong, and Marina Shafir to do great. I just do not know if it's going to happen. I think, unfortunately, she is really, really struggling. So that's a shame, but hopefully she can kind of turn the corner at some point. They clearly believe in her to some degree. She's on TV very regularly, but I don't know, man. I really watched her specifically in this match pretty closely, and I think she's really struggling out there. So that's a shame. Again, Dynamite, decent enough show. Kind of forgettable, I thought. which surprised me considering what the lineup was. Um, a big part of that was the main event being like a good match, but not necessarily of the standard you expect when you see John Moxley versus Brody King, right? Maybe I'm on my own on this. I don't know. I don't know what you guys thought with the match. I thought it was good. I didn't think it was much more than that, unfortunately. I love how much Moxley gave Brody. And, I think Brody was up to it to an extent. I love his demeanor. I love how kind of just outright mean he is and how aggressive some of his stuff comes off. The chops were, you guys missed those in the US because they're in the ad break, but he threw a couple of chops that were like outrageous. Like the crowd couldn't believe what they were hearing. So there was some nice stuff there. I don't know if he's offensively varied enough to take as much of this match as Moxley gave him, honestly. I think they had a couple hitches in there. That if they had this match again in 2 weeks, then they'd do a better version of it. I think there was just a couple instances where they were struggling a little bit to find their groove. And again, it was a good match. It didn't pop necessarily the way you would hope or expect. I also think it's worth saying, crowd is a big part of that. I was kind of stunned at the lack of heat for this, and I think it was a reminder for me, as someone who's a big Brody King fan and always has been a pretty big proponent of his. I think it was kind of a reminder of like the relative kind of new underdeveloped vibe of him as a singles wrestler for that crowd. Like I guess to that audience, the Battle Royal win was a lot more shocking than it even was to me, right? And I took the shock in a good way of like, that's exciting, that's fresh. I think with a crowd like this, they were kind of not really buying it, which is understandable because obviously he wasn't going to win, but I kind of thought it'd have the opposite effect for whatever reason. Yeah, I don't know. It was a good match. I think they would be better served in hindsight, and they'd have been better served to do like a bloodbath, honestly. But unfortunately, John's done one of those every week, so I understand. I understand the hesitance to go back to that formula. Okay, let's move to Rampage, which I think was clearly stronger than Dynamite this week. A big part of that was Eddie Kingston, who kind of stole this show with a couple of different things. Firstly, mainly the match against Takeshita. This was tremendous. A great encapsulation of everything that's made Kingston such a unique, strong asset for the promotion. So valuable. In the sense that, he's given them a kind of a genre, a type of match that I still think, even 2 years into his run, there is no one else in the promotion who can do it like he can. The earliest examples of it, I would say, were the first Moxley match, I think, but mostly, I would say he had a couple weeks there at the start of 2021 he wrestled Archer and he wrestled Pac, and both matches went like 10 minutes, and they were really, filled with like actual content and ideas and some physicality rather than guys just kind of chilling until their closing stretch, which is what it is, but it's a thing. Eddie has an ability to make matches feel alive, which unlocks this whole other thing. And it allows you to give him he isn't getting a ton of time out there in ring. He's getting just enough time to tell his story. And I think this was a great example of kind of what he gives them in that regard. In addition to the fact that he brings this flavor of like, this fight environment, right? And I think it elevates opponents just on like a tone. There's like there's this element of respect there that like brings a Takeshita up in the audience's eyes, I think, just by the way Eddie wrestles them. Always amazes me. I mentioned this on the grin. It always amazes me the way that dude can take bumps. Like, dude takes these big fucking booming bumps on power moves, which is crazy considering like hit the point he's at in his career. And it has to be said, Eddie's one of his biggest faults, I think, for his career has been sometimes he's too given and sells too much. Takeshita was not just up to the amount that Eddie gave him. He was like, way beyond being that. He was spectacular here. And he's been spectacular the whole time. I mean, he's eye-catching in a very unique way because he can do very simple things and make them look like absurd. Like, it's actually crazy some of the stuff he does out there. And again, when I say some of the stuff, I don't mean what he's doing. It's the way he's doing it, right? How explosive he is, how dynamic he is. He's very special. And I think it was the perfect kind of matchmaking. Hopefully, when he moves past Jericho, Eddie can wrestle more of these matches. Takeshita should just be on TV more anyway, I think. Hopefully he gets some wins now after this. But yeah, man, this was tremendous. Exactly what I thought it would be. In a lot of ways, when you wrestle Kingston on TV and he's winning, he's going to kind of give you a clean slate, a blank slate, and you can fill it however you intend to. And I mentioned with Brody King a second ago, Moxley kind of doing the same for him, and how maybe there wasn't quite the offensive kind of diversity to fill that. Takeshita certainly can never be accused of that, man. That dude does stuff that's like, the way he was launching Eddie around out there was striking. And I know they do some crowd sweetening on this show, but you got the sense that it was like legitimately wowing the crowd. It was awesome. Great vibe to this one. Felt very different. Felt very Eddie Kingston. And Takeshita was certainly not just along for the ride. He was amazing here. So hopefully more Takeshita on TV. Hopefully once Eddie's done with Jericho, we get more of this type of match. Because I think Eddie gives them an awful lot with this. He also, later in the show, allegedly it was 10 minutes after his match, but you go, I suppose. He had this incredible promo. I thought, honestly, it was his best promo in AEW in a long time. I would probably say since the Punk program, honestly. I love Eddie. Everyone knows that. But I think in terms of the promo side of things, I think the Jericho feud has kind of pigeonholed him somewhat. When playing the contrast to Jericho, I think he slightly struggled to fully showcase what he can do in that side of things. I mean, he's great. He's always great. But what I mean is he's been kind of more one note than, to me, I think he can be. As someone who's seen Eddie outside of promotion. This was like tonally, I thought, different in a way that was striking. The best part of the promo was the fact that he said all this stuff and threatened Jericho, and then in the middle of it said, and I know I say all this all the time, and you're probably thinking, but you always say that, Eddie, which was a really great moment in which the babyface basically said, I know I've been threatening to kill Chris Jericho on TV a lot, but this time I'm being serious, which was wonderfully human and was aware of the situation, just self-aware, both as a character and a performer. That was brilliant, I thought. I thought this was a great promo. I really, really did. And by the way, it wasn't just Eddie. However they shot this, however they put this together, this felt different in some way. On Friday night, I said it gave me big, like, ECW vibes. I don't know if you guys get what I mean by that. Any of you guys seen ECW TV? Like, the way this felt and sounded and looked, I don't know, mate. It felt raw in a way that I think they kind of very seldom feature on TV. So I love the promo, love the match. It was a big night for King. He, of course, is going to be wrestling Chris Jericho in a barbed wire death match soon, which is hilarious. But we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. Okay. There was a couple big angles on Rampage. Ideally, you would spread these slightly more, broadly, especially because they're both building to the exact same pay-per-view, but you get what you get, I suppose. The first was a genuine surprise. Jonathan Gresham, Lee Moriarty, they were teaming up against the Gates of Agony. Gresham, a couple of times kind of got himself out of the way of a tag, and there was a reason. Jim Ross called him an idiot, so thank God he was turning. And then, of course, he walked off the apron. He joined Tully Blanchard Enterprises. And I thought it was... I'm very torn on this, guys. I'm very, very, very torn. I like it in a vacuum. Like, I think it's a good idea, Tully Blanchard, there's a certain... Even though his promos are they're kind of a mixed bag at this point. It depends on the setting, depends on the circumstance. But he still has a certain prestige to him. I like the way Tully carries himself out there. And I love the idea of Tully having like an actual old school faction rather than just having like a couple guys. But there's something that feels unnatural about this that I can't shake. And it may be simply limited to the fact that I was watching Ring of Honor before. And if you didn't watch it, it may like make perfect sense to you more than it does to me. But I do think there was something to be said about Gresham being like the actual representative of the brand. You know, like I think he's very good at that role. I know that it's become kind of a thing online to how much of a dork he is and this that. And that. I get it, honestly, but like I do think he was doing a very good job of carrying himself as a champion that would have gave the brand an identity on its own. The idea that okay, what is Ring of Honor compared to AEW? It can't be the same size as it can't be bigger than, so it's got to be different then, right? I've always a babyface champion. Gresham gave you a chance to kind of frame things a certain way with that kind of sports vibe, and this is pure wrestling and all that stuff. And look, I know it's pretentious, I know it's nerdy, I know, but it's fucking Ring of Honor. At the end of the day, it's gonna be very nerdy. Okay, it's Ring of Honor. I just slightly torn. I don't know. Maybe I'm on an island with this. Couple of things. Cheesenator cheered 200 bits. Mohammed followed, and Melissa cheered 100 bits. We appreciate you guys. Hope you're enjoying the show. Thank you. Right? Yes, thank you very much. Appreciate you. Yeah, I don't know. I'm looking forward to how it develops. I like Gresh. I like Tully. I liked the first promo. I think Gresham's an underrated promo, which is part of what I'm talking about with my issues with it. But I have no doubt the act will work. I have no doubt it'll be good. There's something slightly off about it to me. I can't put my finger on it. Nonetheless, he's wrestling Moriarty next week. Our guess is he's wrestling Side Out at the pay-per-view. I've seen a lot of buzz about Claudio, about bigger names than Matt Sydal. I don't think it's the time because I don't think Gresham's losing. And if Gresham's not losing, then it's like I don't think you can have, you certainly haven't Claudio lose to him. So unless you're ready to beat him, in which case do Claudio, but that would be kind of nuts to me. If you're going to beat him at the pay-per-view, you should do the turn after the pay-per-view, my guess is it'll be Sydal, which is not a particularly big match, but let's be honest, the pay-per-view it's FTR and the Briscoes at this point. It is what it is. Absolutely, I agree with this. I think it was very clear. The fact that Hagen mentioned, Claudio hasn't been the world champion and literally said in Ring of Honor, in WWE, I think it's very clear that Claudio is winning the belt. It feels like it would be strange to shoot this angle and have him lose it in 2 weeks. To me, that's the kind of title change you'd pencil in for like September, October time, Maybe I'm overthinking it. I just think it'd be weird to do a heel turn, put a guy over manager, and then have him immediately lose the belt. But we'll see. I also think like you kind of want to save some of this stuff when you actually have TV, right? Like Claudio and Gresham's kind of vaguely big match for in your little nerd bubble that'll be interesting in the show. So we'll see. Okay. Yes, I agree. Sydal is very underrated. I think him and Gresham will be great. Up next, they did the same angle again with Mercedes Martinez and Serena Deeb. Obviously different, but you get what I mean. Same conclusion. A team disintegrating and setting up a match for Death Before Dishonor. This was an interesting angle. I didn't love how Serena kind of vanished from the TV after the pay-per-view. We talked about this on the behind the paywall a little bit. I thought it was kind of frustrating. Serena has her flaws as a TV performer. I think she's the most dynamic personality. But I wish she had such a good match at the pay-per-view that I would have given her some kind of connective tissue there. She kind of went away on the TV, went to the C shows, did this for Mercedes, all to set up this. I think Serena is going to win this belt. I would be surprised if she lost 2 straight pay-per-view title matches. My guess is she'll win, which I think is the right fit. I think Mercedes is actually far more useful for AEW as like player coach, mid-card, upper mid-card that can actually wrestle a lot and win and lose. With the belt, you're kind of cornered there, right? Serena has been presented at a certain level where I think you can protect her more and it feels natural. And also, and I'm a bigger Mercedes fan than Serena fan, but I think at this point it's kind of clear that Serena is the stronger in-ring performer, which is what you need, right, for this belt. So, as to the angle itself, it was okay. Unfortunately, it didn't, it's not going to get a great reaction or anything. By contrast, the Gresham thing actually got kind of pretty strong heat in the building. Relative. This is always going to be undercut by the fact that Mercedes has had such a strange television presence on the show. I mean, she came in as the hired gun for Britt. She then turned babyface, and her and Rosa were like, foes that had found respect for one another. Then she kind of felt like a heel again when she was wrestling alongside Serena, only to be kind of by default turn back babyface here. There just ain't much of a connection there with the audience. So you're going to get a ton of heat. Luckily, I have no doubt the match is going to be kick-ass. I'm really looking forward to it, actually. Death Before Dishonor in general, I'm really looking forward to, which we'll get into in a second. But yeah, I don't, I don't think you can expect this to be some red-hot angle. I just think it's more a case of matchmaking. This is a match they want to do. This is how they're going to get there, So we shall see how it turns out, but I'm pretty confident it'll be a very good match. Okay. Main event of Rampage. Tony Nese and Orange Cassidy. I was very surprised by how much time this got when I was watching the show live. I couldn't believe they'd allocated 15 minutes to this. But I have to say, I thought this match was, I would actually say it bordered on being great. I thought this was an unbelievable, bordering on unfathomable showcase of Tony Nese. Now, I know this sounds like I'm doing a bit. I'm actually being sincere. I've always thought Tony Nese got kind of too much shit. And talk about a guy who has limitations. I get it. He ain't a main eventer. I thought he was unbelievable on Friday or Wednesday, whenever the hell, on Rampage. And again, I'm aware he isn't going to wow you with charisma or personality. But his performance on Rampage was like so perfect. His offense is just exceptional. But the way he like fed Orange's stick and the way he bumped for Orange when it was time to do, like, he's so good at his role, man. And that's kind of what I want to get into here. Because I think this is an interesting conversation. So here's the deal. All right. So first, before we go on to this, the match, genuinely, I strongly recommend it if you haven't seen. I know not everyone watches Rampage, even in our audience. But they build this match around him hitting the DDT, and at the end, he hits like a sequence of them, and it is fucking awesome. Like, it's incredible. So Tony Nese signed, or debuted at least last October. He has had 4 singles matches on TV since then. He's had the Sammy match, which was very good. The Swerve match, which I was lower on than the consensus, but, he had a nice performance in. I think Swerve has got way more comfortable since then. But, he got good reviews. Danhausen, of course, he absolutely butchered. And then this one here. So October to now, we're in July, 4 singles matches on TV. Now, before you put anything in the comments, I have no problem with Tony Nese's usage. This is not me critiquing or criticizing. I'm just saying, hold on here, right? I think that is perfectly in line with how we would have all predicted Tony Nese should be used, knowing who Tony Nese was before and who he has been for the last 6-7 years, I would say, kind of when he's been this guy. I think he's actually improved dramatically, which we'll get into. But, this kind of, the book has been written on Tony Nese in some ways. So this sounds about right. This is the right usage. He wins matches on the C shows. He goes to TV. He loses good matches. So, cycle back and forth, rotate that. But I am here to say, call me crazy. I know he's not a main eventer. I do think he has been so good in this role, he may have earned himself a reprisal of sorts. I think you may be able to talk yourself into him being on more. Now, I'm not saying he should be the TNT champ. I'm not saying he should be winning matches on TV more than once every couple months. I'm not saying that. Do I think he could be an upper mid-carder for Ring of Honor? Yes. Do I think he could be an incredible piece of a tag team? Definitely. I don't know who that necessarily is with, but I think he could be a great tag team wrestler. I'm reminded of his run with Buddy on 205 Live, where I thought they were just a fabulous team. And they were very, short-lived because they didn't have tag belts or anything like that. But I'm intrigued by exploring more with Tony Nese. We understand his ceiling, right? We get it. We understand it. But, man, I don't know. I think in some ways in this particular promotion, he's more valuable than we may have, originally expected. Now, why is that? Well, I think AEW is more and more leaning on, in-ring. I think more so in the last 6 months than ever before. And in a promotion that leans on in-ring, in a promotion where most of the mid-card guys don't get a lot of promo time anyway, and often are doing pre-tapes and stuff, I think there's an argument that Tony Nese actually should be above some of the guys that conventional thinking would tell you he shouldn't be above. Right? So I'm going to use a guy, and the reason I'm going to use him is because I think everyone who's watching this knows I'm not being biased against this gentleman. I'm using him to make a point. I'm clearly a bigger fan of who I'm about to mention. I want to talk about Ethan Page and Tony Nese, right? Because last week's show, I did a pretty big segment about Ethan Page. And I mentioned something that I think is true. I said, I think he's valuable in AEW. But I do think we're increasingly seeing that Ethan, his skill set actually isn't a perfect fit for what AEW does on TV. You know, it's kind of, in a strange way, his strengths are kind of limited and his weaknesses are like kind of spotlight. Now, I think Ethan Page has good matches, but he doesn't have these kind of spectacular athletic, thrill rides that AEW TV is often filled with. My God. Tony Nese does. And so I ask you, if you're looking at your roster and you're getting down to the 8th, 9th, 10th spot on the hill side of things, who is more useful in this particular promotion? And try and remove all prior perception of these guys. And let me remind everyone again, and you all know this, I'm much more of an Ethan Page fan than a Tony Nese fan. But I think this is where things get interesting. I think we're seeing that Tony Nese in AEW is actually very effective. I think his style is totally at home in this promotion. His physical skill in ring allows him to like really shine, I think. So I don't think this is something they're going to actually do a lot with, honestly, because they've got so many options. Why would you sweat Tony Nese? But I wanted to talk about him a little bit because I thought he was absolutely superb on Rampage. I thought he was brilliant. I think he's been great basically the whole run in AEW. So just watch for that, Let's see if Tony Nese, based on what he got here, a 15-minute match with Orange Cassidy, who's one of their top guys, where he looked this good. Let's see. Let's see if we get an uptick in usage. If not, I completely understand it. He's not the most electric personality. He's kind of, somewhat bland, I guess would be the word as a personality. Certainly not bland in ring. But I think that's an interesting kind of thing to look at. Let's see if he gets a little bit more love, Tony. If not, as a singles, I would really like to see Smart Mark get a team here. Very, very, very interested. Very interested by finding a guy who fits alongside Tony in a team, Because I think we've talked about a lot on this show. I think they could do with some teams that can give you 20-minute title matches. Tony Nese with the right dude can do that, certainly. And to reiterate, I'm an Ethan Page guy. Loved his promo on Miro. I like him as a talent a lot. Always have. I just think sometimes you see with a promotion having a style. And the more AEW feels like it leans one way, I think you're seeing different guys feel more at home than others. It's interesting to me. Anyway, last couple of things here before we take it home. The Best Friends worked Elevation this week. There was a lot of speculation about Chuck. He's been back on TV now for the last week and change. He did some stuff for Orange. Obviously, this was taped last week. I think this is like one of those deals where it's a matter of what you have with Roppongi Vice. If Rocky's around a lot, then you book Roppongi Vice, but he's obviously only going to be around so much. He has a lot of different stuff going on. Best Friends, I think, are a boost. Hopefully, Chuck's, I don't know what the issue was, but hopefully he's good. And they wrestled on Monday, as I said, on last Wednesday, which is Monday in the AEW Galaxy. I think they're a genuine boost. I think it's easy to forget that a couple of years ago, they were actually like a featured team and had some pretty extensive feuds. Babyface side of things, we mentioned it earlier. Swerve and Keith, you would assume, are not long for the tag team division. So if you look at it here, hang on a second. So the babyfaces, you've got FTR at top. I've got Swerve and Our Glory at 2, which again, very tenuous. Lucha Bros, Acclaimed, Silver and Reynolds. Now, to me, you can slot Best Friends in there right in that kind of Silver and Reynolds Acclaimed range, right? They're not as over as the Acclaimed, but I think they're better in ring than the Acclaimed, so that balances out. And that puts them in like 3-4 seed. That's interesting. I don't know if you're going to see them as tag champs ever, but I certainly think there's a world in which, we're kind of reminded of how valuable they were early because these tag ranks aren't as stacked as you may think. So hopefully Chuck can get in some rhythm with Trent. They've really not teamed a lot all in the last year due to injuries and different factors. And hopefully everyone's good to go. I'm glad to see Chuck sticking around. And yeah, nice to see. Final thing here, final couple things. Seashore Land. Lee Moriarty had a nice match with Leon Ruffin, I believe is the AEW indie name for Leon. Um, Leon is someone who I'm actually surprised how little he's kind of like how little buzz there's been about him since he left. I've always liked Leon as a talent. Um, I enjoy what he gives you as a babyface underdog. I don't think it's necessarily something you can get much out of in AEW. But it has been apparent how often he's been around the AEW kind of, shows and how much he's risked on the C shows. He has appeared on TV a couple times with Bear Country. I believe they were billed this week as Roughing It. And the reason I bring him up, Brucey Beats is a step ahead of me here. Ring of Honor. He's the kind of guy who, because of he's like the way he presents himself and the way his personality is, he's a natural babyface, but he's the kind of guy you have to have like a specific spot for. In the sense that you kind of want to have him in a position where you can feature him as that underdog. If he's just another guy on the show, I think there's better dudes that can fit that role. Guys that are more polished, guys that are more kind of that don't jump off the page the way Leon does. Like if you watch this match with Moriarty at Universal, and Universal's a pretty quiet, small crowd. But he is just a natural babyface. If you go and watch it, Lee almost becomes the de facto heel just because he's wrestling Leon, So I thought I'd bring that up because it's clearly the best match they had on those C shows this week. And I would like to see him land in Ring of Honor, perhaps, A good talent. I don't think there's much for him in AEW proper, whatever that means, but it was interesting to me because it's been about a year, I think, since he got cut. Maybe shy of that. I don't know. It feels like it's been a long time though. And yeah, he's kind of been floating around these shows without much conversation. So it appears they have something for him. If you haven't seen the match from Mario, I do recommend it. It was good. I always like watching Lee wrestle. He's just got a beautiful style. So a nice match. Joe, do you expect Swerve in Our Glory to end this Wednesday night during the triple threat tag? I don't. I think it's very much in play and possible. But I don't necessarily think they'll pull the trigger on it because I just think if you look at the big acts through AEW history, not this is one of the biggest, but they're both kind of featured guys. I think he's generally way more kind of patient with those things. Now, patient could just as easily be described as, kind of tedious. I think sometimes Tony has struggled with both him. He's the description there can change depending on your perspective. Sometimes I do think he's a little slow on moving on these things. Personally, I hope it doesn't end because I love them as a team. They didn't have their best showing this week, which was, left out of the format for a reason because I thought they struggled this week with Butcher and Blade, styles clash. But I think they're a great team. So ideally, I would try to keep them together. I think what you'll get instead, honestly, is you'll get a finish that kind of suggests there's still trouble without doing the turn itself. I think it's going to kind of play out on the TV here for a little bit longer, but we shall see. Dude, I don't know if you're bringing this up, Swerve versus Leon, because you've seen them do it before, or it just pops you as a matchup, but their dynamic in NXT I thought was awesome, dude. Swerve is so good as a bully heel. That's his peak form. He's remarkable in that role. Leon really brings that out of him. So yeah, that'd be cool, definitely. Final thing, the Dark Order main event in both C shows this week. They won both, which for those of you that watch the C shows, that is not always the case. They dropped some matches that is honestly surprising. So, there's that. Hopefully, well, I don't know. I was going to say hopefully there's a plan, but I struggle with the Dark Order thing. I am a firm believer in the idea that some things do kind of reach their natural conclusion, I do think they could have played the conclusion out on TV at this point rather than just kind of existing. Maybe they have something up their sleeve, You know, maybe they have something that's going to kind of rejuvenate the faction. But for me, I noted it because I was like, maybe we'll see them on TV again soon, but I don't necessarily know what I would do with them. They're in a very unique spot for a range of reasons, and it's a difficult one, and I think some part of everyone wants Dark Order to just be like a spiritual thing that lives in AEW forever because of where it represents, which is very logical, and I completely get it. But there was something sort of, and I'm pulling the punch here because I'm aware of what the segment was about, and it ain't about wrestling, But there was just something slightly like hollow about the segment on Wednesday, It just didn't feel quite right to me. But it's about a lot more than whether I enjoyed it or not. I don't know. Nonetheless, we'll see. We'll see what happens in Dark Order. All right. Just about perfect at the hour mark, folks. Hope you've enjoyed this. This has been Fleet Week. We talked about, a couple of different things there. Next week is we just mentioned the triple threat tag. Hopefully the last triple threat tag for a while. Please, I can't keep doing this. I'm sure it'll be great, though. What else is on Wednesday? Oh, Claudio and Jake, which I think will be good. I don't necessarily know if it's the first thing I do with Claudio as a singles wrestler on Dynamite, but you get what you get, I suppose. The big headline in terms of matchmaking, though, was Eddie Kingston, Chris Jericho, barbed wire death match, which is absolute insanity for national TV. Can't wait. That would be one of those things that's exciting on a really nerdy level where it's like, how are they going to work that match? Because they're both masters of like drama and crowd work. So that's going to be really fun. There's some good stuff coming up, folks. Obviously, Friday I mentioned Moriarty and Gresham. I think they're doing Private Party and Lucha Bros on Wednesday, I think. So some good stuff to talk about next week. I hope you've enjoyed this. Tomorrow, I'm going to do a review. It may not be of the whole cards, but I'm going to pick out some matches from Tokyo Joshi Pro and Stardom. They're two big shows this weekend. I'm going to pick out a couple matches from those, talk them through. I might try and find some of the indie stuff that took place last night. Just some kind of, different matches. Yeah, Anna Jay's wrestling Serena Deeb. Serena, getting a win on the road to the Ring of Honor title. So, going to do that tomorrow. I'm not sure of the time yet. I'll update you. Do me a favor, folks. Let's see this up. Hang on, let's do this as a family here. The world famous Late Night Grin. Go over to the Late Night Grin channel now and put a thumbs up and give yourself a reminder on the 31 with Robert. Anyway, it's back. Alex Pawlowski. Episode 5 of season 1. This is the penultimate episode of the season. I've heard some horrific rumors about some of the things that are featured in this episode, which obviously I do not co-sign or endorse, but Alex is a great guest, a wonderful fella. So hopefully Bob treats him with some respect. If you enjoyed this and you would like more, you can sign up at latenightgrin.com. Just $1 gets you everything. There are no tiers, just grins. What does that mean? What is everything? Well, you get 4 shows a week of me doing this where I just talk to myself and laugh at my own jokes. And then on Friday nights, you get the Late Night Grin, which is a 3 to 4 hour wrestling podcast immediately after Rampage. On this past episode, we spent much of the show casting different wrestling movies, including the biopic about Eric Bischoff's mid-90s rise and fall featuring Leonardo DiCaprio. Much to discuss, different shows ahead, Historical Oracle Tuesday, so on and so forth. I think Jason and I may have something a little different tomorrow too, or Tuesday, somewhere around there. I hope you've enjoyed it. Keep grinning. And in the meantime, enjoy this outro. Wow.